You ever sit at a table so polished it shows your reflection, and wish you could wipe your own face right off it? That was me last Sunday, grinning like a trained dog in front of my wife's family. Same table, same chairs, same cold roast jokes they served hotter than the soup. This wasn't new. I'd played this role before, the quiet husband. Polite, dependable, the guy who chuckles in all the right places and pretends he doesn't notice the knife slipping between his ribs under the tablecloth. I knew every line of this play. Her father would brag about the stock market like he personally invented capitalism. Her sister, Bianca, would drop comments about her yoga studio in that voice people reserve for charity work and hostage negotiations. And her mother, her mother, she had mastered the art of the backhanded compliment. "You've really come into your own, David," she'd purr, like I'd just learned how to use a fork. But the main act? That was always the comparisons. Not loud, not vulgar, just slipped in like lemon in water. Ethan never needed GPS. He had such a sense of direction. Someone would muse after I pulled out my phone to check traffic. Ethan used to love red wine. Whenever I ordered whiskey. Ethan this. Ethan that. Ethan, the man I'd never met, but who apparently walked on sparkling marble and breathed sophistication. My wife, Lena, never shut it down. She'd just smile, soft, almost apologetic, and change the subject. That used to comfort me. It meant she knew it was wrong. Lately, that smile looked less like apology and more like complicity. Like a secret handshake I wasn't invited to learn. Still, I kept my mask on. Smiled through the sting. Ate the roast chicken that tasted like old grudges. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You endure. You believe the storm will pass, that one day they'll see you. Not as a stand-in for a man they can't seem to bury, but as someone who stayed. Someone who chose them every damn day. I believed that right up until the doorbell rang. The sound was so normal it almost didn't register. But then I saw her mother's face light up like a Christmas tree in July. Chairs scraped. Voices lifted. And then him. Ethan. Tall. Tan. Perfectly disheveled like life itself had been begging for his autograph. He walked in wearing confidence like cologne, hugged Lena's mother first. Too long. Too tight. Kissed her cheek. Then moved straight to Lena. And here's the thing. She didn't flinch. Didn't look shocked. Didn't even look guilty. She smiled. That soft, secret smile. The one I thought belonged to me. I heard my own pulse louder than the chatter. My hand froze around the stem of my glass. He clapped me on the shoulder like we were old war buddies. "You must be David," he said, his voice all velvet and victory. "I've heard things. Things." My jaw tightened so hard I tasted iron. And then her mother, God bless her venom-laced heart, gestured toward the empty chair right across from me. "Sit, Ethan. We saved you a spot." That's when the laughter started again. And for the first time that night, I realized I wasn't just at their table. I was on their menu. He sat down like he owned the air we were breathing. You ever notice how some men fold into a chair like it's greeting an old friend? That was Ethan. No hesitation, no self-conscious fidgeting, just one smooth motion that said I'm home. The clink of his watch hitting the table was louder than it should have been, like punctuation on a sentence no one had spoken yet. Platinum, of course. The kind of watch that costs more than a mortgage and ticks like it knows secrets. Conversations swelled like a tide around him. Questions flew. Where have you been hiding? How's life treating you? Still in finance. I sat there, chewing on a piece of bread that tasted like chalk, watching the whole room orbit him. Even the damn dog got up from its corner, tail wagging like it remembered him. And Lena, my Lena, she was glowing. Not like wedding day glowing. Not even honeymoon glowing. No, this was the dangerous kind. The kind you can't bottle. She leaned in when he spoke, tilted her head just slightly, just enough for that strand of hair to fall across her cheek like a movie director planned it. I kept smiling. That's what you do when the world starts writing you out of your own story. You smile like you still have a line coming up. "David," her mother said suddenly, dragging me back from the slow-motion train wreck in front of me. "Ethan was just telling us about his villa in Santorini. Can you imagine? Greece." She said Greece like it was a moral achievement. "Oh yeah," I replied, my voice steady, betraying none of the acid rising in my throat. "Sounds nice. Never been." Ethan smiled at me, warm, patronizing, the way you smile at a waiter who tries to recommend the wine. "You'd love it," he said, teeth gleaming like they'd been polished by angels. "Perfect for relaxing." Relaxing. The word slid across the table like a blade wrapped in velvet. I glanced at Lena. She wasn't meeting my eyes. Her fingers were busy tracing the rim of her wine glass in slow circles, like she was hypnotizing herself. Or maybe me. That's when the weirdest thing happened. My phone buzzed. One short vibration against my thigh. I thought about ignoring it, but my gut told me not to. I slipped it out under the table. Just one message. From unknown. You're not imagining it. More later. Don't react. My blood iced over. The letters burned into my brain. Who the hell sends something like that in the middle of Sunday dinner? I lifted my head, scanning faces. Everyone was laughing at something Ethan had said. No one looked like they'd just detonated a grenade under the table. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and forced a laugh I didn't feel. My pulse was drumming so hard I thought the table would start vibrating. That was the moment I knew something bigger was at play. Something ugly, coiled beneath the surface, waiting. But here's the cruel joke. I didn't stand up. Didn't flip the table. Didn't call anyone out. I just kept eating my damn chicken, wearing a smile that felt like broken glass. Because the thing about storms? They don't hit without warning. They whisper first. And that text, that was the whisper. You ever watch a room and feel like the furniture knows more than you? That's where I was, staring at a centerpiece of dying roses while the conversation kept pirouetting around Ethan like he was the guest of honor at a coronation. He was good, I'll give him that. Not just charming, strategic, dropping breadcrumbs like a man who wants to be followed. So, Lena, he said, swirling his wine like it owed him rent. Do you still have that thing for Greek sunsets? You used to say nothing could beat the view from the caldera. Used to. Those two words landed like darts on a map I didn't know existed. Lena laughed, too quickly, too brightly. Oh, I haven't thought about that in years, she said, but her voice bent in the middle like a wire under strain. Bianca, her sister, leaned in, eyes sparkling. Greek sunsets? What's this? Oh, nothing, Lena murmured, brushing it off like lint. Just old memories. Ethan smiled, slow and deliberate. Old, sure, but some things don't change, right? His gaze locked on her like a hook sliding under skin. I felt my fingers curl around the edge of the table, knuckles whitening. And then buzz. Another vibration in my pocket. My stomach clenched. Unknown. He's testing you. Don't take the bait. I scanned the table again, my pulse ticking like a metronome. Everyone was focused on Ethan, not me. Except Lena's mother. Her eyes flicked to me for half a second, then away, like a magician hiding a card. Who the hell was texting me? And how did they know what Ethan was doing? I slid the phone back without replying. My brain was doing cartwheels in a burning building. And then Ethan turned his attention to me. Finally. So, David, he said, voice honeyed with just enough venom to flavor the air. What is it you do again? I keep forgetting. Not what do you do? What is it you do again? Like I'd told him before. Like I'd been footnoted in some chapter he didn't bother reading. I'm in urban planning, I said evenly, spearing a piece of potato like it was his smug grin. Urban planning, he repeated, nodding slowly, lips curling. Important work. Necessary. Though, not much room for creativity, I guess. There it was. The jab dressed in velvet. The table chuckled politely. Even Lena smiled, small, strained, but still a smile. I wanted to flip that table so hard the wine glasses would orbit the chandelier. Instead, I smiled back. You'd be surprised. Cities are like people. You've got to understand what they hide before you can make them whole. Something flickered in his eyes. Just for a second. Then he raised his glass. To understanding what people hide, he said. The others laughed, clueless. I didn't. Because I knew that toast wasn't about cities. And neither did Lena. She flinched. Barely, but enough. The room went loud again, but all I could hear was the text buzzing in my head like a wasp in a jar. And then my phone lit up one more time. Unknown. If you want the truth, excuse yourself in 5 minutes. Back door. My chest tightened. Who was waiting for me? And why did it feel like this dinner was about to turn into a war? You ever count seconds in your head and feel like each one might be the last before your life changes? That was me. Fork halfway to my mouth, smile glued on like a store mannequin, waiting for 5 minutes to crawl by. The conversation was still swirling, mostly Bianca now, ranting about some yoga influencer's book deal. Ethan chimed in with anecdotes like he'd been waiting years for this stage. Lena laughed on cue. And me? I was staring at the clock over her mother's china cabinet like it was a detonator. When the 5th minute struck, I cleared my throat and reached for my napkin. Excuse me, I said lightly, as if nature had called and I was just answering. Nobody blinked. Nobody except Ethan. His eyes tracked me as I stood, slow and deliberate, like a hawk watching something squirm in the grass. I didn't look back. My spine was a steel rod as I walked past the kitchen, past the hallway lined with family portraits that somehow never included me, and toward the back door. The night air hit my face like cold water. And then I saw him. Not who I expected. Older guy. Late 50s, maybe, in a gray overcoat that looked 2 sizes too big. Leaning against the fence like a man who'd been standing in shadows his whole life. He didn't smile. Just nodded once and slipped his hand into his coat pocket. "David," he said, low and calm. Every instinct in me screamed to turn around, but something about his voice pinned me in place. "Who are you?" He didn't answer. Just pulled out a phone, my text thread glowing on the screen. "That was you," I said, more accusation than question. He nodded again, slow. "You want to know the truth about Ethan?" My chest tightened. "Start talking." He exhaled, a fog of breath curling in the cold air. "He's not here to reminisce. He's here to stake a claim. And your wife? She's not as innocent as you think." The words hit like a hammer on glass, but before I could respond, he slid something across the patio table toward me. A manila envelope, fat, sealed, and stamped with a date, last year. "What's this?" "Proof," he said. "But you don't open it here. You take it. You read it when you're alone. And then you decide whether you're going to burn it or burn the house down." My fingers hovered over the envelope like it might bite. "Why are you helping me?" For the first time, he smiled. Thin, sharp. "Let's just say Ethan owes me. And I like collecting debts." Footsteps echoed behind me, the creak of the back door swinging open. I spun just as Lena's voice sliced through the night. "David, what are you doing out here?" I slipped the envelope under my arm, heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. "Just getting some air," I said, turning slowly, hiding the quake in my voice. Her eyes narrowed. Not suspicion, curiosity. The kind that feels like a trap. Behind me, the man was gone. Like he'd been smoked all along. I walked back into that dining room like a man carrying a live grenade under his jacket. The envelope felt heavier with every step, like it had soaked up the tension from the air outside. I slid into my chair, careful not to let it show under my arm, and reached for my glass of water because my throat was a desert. Ethan looked up, smile playing at his lips like he knew where I'd been and why. "Everything okay?" he asked, voice smooth as glass, cutting like a shard. "Fine," I said, forcing casual into my tone. "Just needed a breather." Lena's eyes flicked to mine, searching, then away. She was too quick about it, too rehearsed. I focused on the table, nodding at something Bianca said about a yoga retreat in Bali. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. Every second, that envelope whispered from under my arm. Proof. Proof of what? Affairs. Lies. A past that never stayed buried? My fingers itched to tear it open right there, let the truth spill across her mother's perfect linen tablecloth. But no, not yet. Not in front of them. Ethan raised his glass again. "To second chances," he said, locking eyes with Lena before tipping it back. Second chances. My stomach churned like bad whiskey. I stared at him, then at her. She didn't flinch this time. She smiled. A real smile, the kind I hadn't seen in months. And that was worse than any secret. Second chances, the others echoed, glasses clinking like distant gunfire. I smiled too, because what else do you do when the world is about to split open? I smiled and tasted blood where I'd bitten my tongue. Then came the dagger wrapped in silk. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table, eyes on me. "David, do you ever wonder," he said softly, "what life might have been like if you'd met Lena 10 years earlier?" The room chuckled politely, but his eyes never left mine. "No," I said, my voice flat as concrete. "I figure I met her exactly when I was supposed to." He tilted his head, smile curling wider, as if that answer amused him. "Funny," he murmured. "I used to think the same thing." Lena's fork clinked against her plate. Her hand trembled just slightly, enough for me to notice, not enough for anyone else. And in that split second, I knew two things. Ethan wasn't just here to stir nostalgia. Whatever was in that envelope was about to become my weapon, or my undoing. I felt my phone buzz again. My pocket might as well have been on fire. I slid it out under the table. Unknown. Don't let him control the narrative. Not tonight. I looked up. Ethan was watching me. Lena was watching both of us. The whole table had gone blurry except for those two faces, tethered by a history I'd never been invited to read. And in the middle of that silence, I made a decision that would change everything. I stood up. "Excuse me," I said. "Lena, a word?" The room froze like someone had hit pause on a movie. Her mother's smile faltered. Bianca blinked. "Ethan?" He leaned back, arms folded, smirking like a man who'd just been handed front row tickets to his favorite show. Lena rose slowly, napkin sliding off her lap like a surrender flag. "David, now," I said, quieter this time. Not a request. A verdict. We walked out together. My pulse was a war drum. Hers was probably a waltz. And behind us, I swear I heard Ethan laugh. The hallway was narrow, dimly lit, lined with those family portraits that had never featured me. Lena walked ahead, her heels tapping like a countdown. She stopped by the coat rack, arms crossed, back rigid. "What the hell was that?" she hissed before I could speak. Her voice was low but sharp enough to cut skin. I didn't answer right away. I studied her face instead, the practiced calm, the tight jaw, the flicker in her eyes that betrayed something deeper. Guilt? Fear? Or something worse than difference? "I should be asking you that," I said finally, my voice steady cold. "Why is he here, Lena? Why is your ex sitting at your mother's table like he still belongs?" She laughed, short, humorless. "He's just an old friend. My mother invited him. I didn't know until tonight." I stepped closer, close enough to catch the scent of her perfume. The same one she wore on our wedding day. It hit me like a sucker punch. Old friend? He kissed your cheek like he had a key to it. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're overreacting." I almost laughed. Overreacting. That word has a way of stripping the skin off your dignity. I slipped my hand inside my jacket, fingers brushing the manila envelope. Heavy. Waiting. "You sure about that?" I said quietly. "Because right now, I'm holding something that says otherwise." That got her. Her eyes flicked to my hand like a moth to a flame. "What do you mean?" "Nothing you need to worry about," I lied. "Yet." She opened her mouth to fire back, but before she could, a shadow stretched across the hallway floor. Slow, deliberate, and then Ethan's voice, smooth, like oil sliding across marble. "Everything okay here?" We both turned. There he was, leaning against the doorframe like the devil on Casual Friday, hands in his pockets, smile sharp enough to draw blood. "Private conversation," I said, my jaw tightening. "Funny," he said, strolling toward us, "because Lena doesn't look very private right now. She looks cornered." "Go back to the table," I said, the words tasting like rust. But he didn't. He kept coming, slow, measured steps, until he was close enough that I could see the faint scar above his eyebrow, a mark life gives to men who never lose. "You know," he said softly, eyes flicking between me and Lena, "it's weird. I spent years imagining this exact moment, wondering what kind of man she'd marry after me. And here you are." My fists clenched so tight, I felt my nails cutting into my palms. "You've had your fun," I said through gritted teeth. "Now walk away." Ethan smiled wider, leaning just enough for his breath to graze my ear. "Careful, David. Because if you think tonight's awkward now," he let the sentence dangle like a noose. "Wait until you hear what she never told you." My pulse thundered. Lena's lips parted, but no words came out. That silence. It was louder than any confession. And in that moment, I knew one thing. Whatever was inside that envelope, it wasn't just going to hurt. It was going to annihilate. We didn't go back to the table. Not yet. Lena stormed toward the kitchen like the floor was on fire, heels stabbing the tiles with every step. I followed, the envelope heavy in my hand like a brick I couldn't drop. Ethan stayed behind, leaning against the wall, smiling like he'd already won. The kitchen door swung shut behind us with a soft click. The room smelled like rosemary and secrets. Lena spun around, arms crossed so tight they looked like they might snap. "What's in that envelope?" she demanded. Not curious, terrified. I didn't answer. Not with words. I slid it onto the counter, tore the seal with one finger, and let the truth spill out. Photos. A stack of them, glossy and cruel. The first was Lena, hair down, lips painted the color of blood, leaning across a table in some dimly lit restaurant. Smiling. At Ethan. His hand was on hers like it had a passport back to places I'd never been. The second photo? A hotel room. Not ours. White sheets, tangled like lies, 2 wine glasses on the nightstand. No faces this time, but her scarf, the one I bought her in Florence, was draped across the chair like a calling card. And then came the paper. Just one sheet, folded crisp. A contract. A damn prenup. Signed by Lena. And Ethan. Dated 6 months before she and I even met. I stared at that signature until the letters blurred. My voice came out like gravel. "Explain this." She reached for the photos, but I snapped them back, heat roaring in my chest. "Don't touch. It's not what it looks like," she said, her voice shaking just enough to sound rehearsed. "Those pictures, they're old. Years ago. Before us." "Old," I hissed, holding up the contract. "Then why does this say 2 years ago? To Lena, when you were already wearing my ring?" Her breath hitched, a sound so small it nearly broke me in half. "Nearly. I can explain," she whispered. "Then do it," I said. My pulse was a hammer pounding through my skull. Explain why the man sitting at your mother's table tonight signed a contract that ties him to you financially until... I scanned the line. Until you remarry. She closed her eyes like she could shut out the world. It was complicated, she said finally. Complicated. I laughed, sharp and hollow. That's what you call still being bound to your ex while saying I do to me. She opened her mouth, but before the words could crawl out, the kitchen door creaked open. And there he was, Ethan, hands in his pockets, smile cutting through the air like a blade. Wow, he said softly, eyes on the photos. Guess you opened your present early. My grip tightened on the papers. You did this. Correction, he said, stepping closer. We did this. Lena and I. You just walked into the third act without reading the script. Lena's voice cracked. Ethan, don't. He ignored her. You know what the best part is, David? You thought this dinner was about awkward nostalgia. But really, it's an audition. My stomach turned to ice. Audition for what? Ethan grinned. For who gets to keep her? For a second, I thought I misheard him. The kitchen was dead silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the faint laughter spilling in from the dining room like a ghost of normalcy. What did you just say? My voice sounded foreign in my own throat. Ethan stepped fully inside now, letting the door swing shut behind him with a lazy hand. He didn't rush. Men like him never do. They savor the chokehold. An audition, he repeated, smile widening like the word tasted sweet. For who deserves her more, me or you? Lena's eyes went wide, a flash of panic breaking through that polished exterior. Ethan, stop. This isn't what, Lena? He tilted his head toward her like a lover feigning curiosity. Isn't what you wanted? You called me. You said you needed clarity. Her face drained of color. My stomach dropped. You called him? I asked, my voice sharper than broken glass. She swallowed hard, lips trembling but no sound coming out. Ethan took a step closer to me, and I caught a whiff of his cologne. Expensive, arrogant. She didn't tell you? His voice was velvet and venom. She asked me to come tonight. Said she needed to feel the weight of both worlds before making her choice. My pulse roared in my ears. I turned to her. Tell me he's lying, Lena. Her silence was an answer carved in stone. I laughed then. Not a real laugh. One of those hollow, unhinged sounds that scrape your throat raw. So this. I waved the photos like confetti. This whole night was a performance. Dinner and a damn duel for your heart. David, she whispered, reaching for me like a drowning hand. It's not. Don't. I snapped, jerking back. My vision blurred at the edges, heat and ice colliding in my chest. Ethan's voice slithered through the air. You want to know what I think? He leaned in, eyes gleaming like a man who'd already carved his victory speech. You're too good for this, David. Too civilized. She needs chaos. She needs someone who makes her blood boil, not someone who files joint taxes on time. The urge to put my fist through his perfect teeth clawed at me, but something stopped me. Not fear. Not pride. Something colder. Clearer. I looked down at the contract in my hand, at her signature looped neatly beside his, and a thought slammed into me like a freight train. They've been playing a game. But what if I rewrite the rules? I slipped the papers back into the envelope slowly, deliberately, and met Ethan's smug stare. You want her? My voice was calm now, too calm. You can have her. Lena flinched like I'd slapped her. David. But, I added, cutting her off. If this is an audition, then let's give the audience a finale they'll never forget. Ethan's brow arched. I'm listening. I smiled then, thin, sharp, the kind of smile that comes right before a house burns down. Stay here. Both of you. I'll be right back. I turned, walked out of that kitchen, and headed for the dining room like a man on a mission. Every step felt like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. Behind me, I heard Ethan chuckle low and dark, and Lena whisper my name like a prayer she already knew wouldn't be answered. When I walked back into that dining room, every laugh, every clink of silverware felt like an insult. The room didn't know it yet, but it was about to become a crime scene. Except the bodies wouldn't bleed, they'd blush and burn. Her mother looked up first, flashing that brittle smile she wore like armor. Everything all right, David? I set the envelope dead center on the tablecloth. The sound was small, but it sliced through the chatter like a bell tolling at a funeral. Not really, I said, sliding out my chair but not sitting down. Turns out tonight's not just dinner. It's a game show. Winner gets Lena. The room froze. Bianca's fork clattered against her plate. Her father's jaw went slack. And Lena, she appeared in the doorway just then, Ethan a step behind her, both looking like characters who'd missed their cue. What are you doing? Lena's voice was tight, strangled. I didn't answer her. Not yet. I opened the envelope and fanned out the photos like a deck of poisoned cards. "Recognize these?" I asked, holding one up so the overhead light kissed the glossy surface. Gasps fluttered around the table. Bianca muttered, "Oh my God." Ethan strolled in slow, that smug half-smile never leaving his lips. "Classy move, David. Airing laundry in front of the in-laws." "Funny," I said, my voice cool as steel, because the stains were there long before I showed up. I tossed the contract onto the table next. It slid across the linen like a guillotine blade. Her father reached for it, brows furrowing as he read the date. 2 years ago? "Lena, what is this?" Lena's voice cracked. "Dad, please." But Ethan cut in, lounging against the wall like the devil at confession. "It's exactly what it looks like. A promise. One she never really broke." Her mother's face went crimson. "Lena, tell me this isn't true." The silence that followed was the loudest sound I've ever heard. And then I smiled. Not bitter, not broken, just free. "You all compare me to Ethan," I said softly. "Every dinner, every holiday. Well, congratulations. Tonight, you can keep him." I slipped my wedding band off and set it gently beside the photos. It made the smallest click, like the sound of a lock opening. Lena's breath hitched. "David, wait." "No," I said, stepping back. "You wanted clarity? Here it is. You don't have to choose." Because I just did. I turned to Ethan, met his smug gaze dead on. "Congratulations, champ. You win the prize. But let me warn you." I leaned in slightly, just enough for him to catch the glint in my eye. "The prize comes with her mother's opinions, her father's debts, and a prenup that'll bleed you dry. Good luck with that." The color drained from his face. Not all at once, but slow, like ink in water. He hadn't expected that twist. And neither had Lena. I straightened, smoothed my jacket, and let my eyes sweep the stunned faces one last time. "Enjoy dinner," I said, voice calm as a closing door. "I'm done being the ghost at this table." Then I walked out. No yelling, no plates thrown, just the sound of my shoes on the hardwood and the whisper of freedom in my ears. And for the first time all night, I smiled for real. The night air felt different when I stepped outside. Sharp, electric, like the world had just flipped its breaker. My pulse was steady now. No rage, no regret, just a strange, quiet clarity. I didn't head for the car right away. Instead, I walked to the edge of the driveway, pulled out my phone, and scrolled to the text thread, the one that started this whole unraveling. Unknown. Don't let him control the narrative. Unknown. More later. I typed one word. Done. Almost instantly, the reply came. Good. Now check under your front seat before you drive home. My stomach tightened, but I didn't hesitate. When I reached the car, I bent down and there it was, a small black box tucked neatly under the seat. Inside, a flash drive and a note scrawled in tight, precise handwriting. "Her mess isn't the only one in this story. Call me when you're ready to talk leverage." No name, just a number. I stared at that note until the porch light flicked on behind me. Voices spilled out from the dining room, raised now, frantic. Through the sheer curtains, I saw chaos blooming like wildfire. Her father waving the prenup, her mother clutching her pearls, Bianca whispering furiously into her phone. And in the middle, Lena and Ethan, locked in a silent standoff that looked less like love and more like mutually assured destruction. Perfect. I slid into the car, started the engine, and let the hum of it drown out whatever came next inside that house. Because the truth? I wasn't driving away in defeat. I was driving towards something sharper, cleaner, leverage. Whoever left that box knew things. About Lena, about Ethan, maybe about more than them. And I had just become the man holding the detonator. As I pulled onto the dark road, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. No bitterness, no despair, just that thin smile again, the kind that means the game isn't over. Because here's the thing no one at that table understood. You don't humiliate a man who's spent his life being underestimated. You free him. And me? I was finally free. Free to burn the script. Free to write a better one. The headlights carved through the night as I dialed the number on the note. 1 ring. 2. Then a voice, low and certain. "I was wondering when you'd call." I smiled, shifted into gear, and drove into the dark like a man who'd just learned the sweetest truth of all. Sometimes the real revenge isn't walking away empty-handed. It's leaving with all the matches.